Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Wealth Compliance Leader Series. We have an all-time favorite, Mr. Ryan George, Chief Marketing Officer of Docupace, joining us. You'll have an opportunity to hear Ryan's tremendous career that started from an advisory capacity all the way to a Chief Marketing Officer position at Docupace. We'll talk about a range of different issues stemming from increasing regulations and the advent of technology in the wealth management practice. Hope you enjoy. Mr. Ryan George, thank you again for making time to join us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Happy to talk compliance with you.
Fantastic. So, Ryan, it's a bit of an understatement to say that you're an experienced professional in the wealth management industry. You've worked across different functions and worn multiple hats. What's your journey been like?
So my journey has been a fun one. I think, what's unique in what I've done is all the different roles that I've played up to this far has been able to sort of lead me to where and give me the skills that I need to be successful where I'm at today. So I started off being a licensed, got a licensed rep where I would answer the phone. It was always interesting where I learned how to think on my feet because a ding would go off and somebody would be on the other side of the line asking the question and you needed to know where the answer was. And I think that really gave me a good fundamental curiosity about the business and learning how to think on my feet that I think has helped me drive my career forward. But, being one of the things that I think has been most impactful is really understanding the importance of financial advice and the role that it plays within, Americans being sound financially. And I think that's something that has made me, wake up every day passionate and be able to go to work and know that I'm doing work that hopefully, even now where I'm further away from it, it still helps people, achieve their goals and dreams.
Fantastic. I tell you, there are lots of folks I speak with, Ryan, sort of have had to wear multiple different hats. And then certainly just like you, they sort of say, look, job one to where I am today, there's been a lot of accumulation of knowledge and experiences, which is helpful. One of the intersections between what InvestorCOM and Docupace do is sort of supporting firms on the compliance set of requirements in wealth management. And over the past 2 to 3 years, I want to say there's been this almost tsunami-like wave of newer and newer regulations that has, not only sort of impacted our businesses, but also the wealth management profession. In your respective view, Ryan, having kind of the experiences you've had, how do firms and how does the profession keep up?
I think it's difficult to keep up. I think that one key thing I would mention is getting involved. So for the past, say, 12 years or so, I've been involved with an organization called FSI, which is the Financial Services Institute. They're an advocate for the financial services industry, the financial service professionals. So that's one way they're, engaged with lawmakers up in Capitol Hill on a daily basis. So, getting involved with that group will help you build a network within a sort of like-minded people who can help, when you have those conversations and brainstorm. They also put on, annual or semi-annual events where their education. I think another thing too is really, the SEC and FINRA both don't really hide the ball in terms of things that they're looking for. So for instance, they'll put out the annual letter of, hey, before they send examiners out in the field, they put out a letter that says, hey, these are the things that we're going to key on this year. And so, everybody, whether it's going to InvestorCOM or seeing a summary or others, seeing, in divulging in those materials, I think is important. But I think the most important one really is continuing to engage with peers and continuing to build that professional network of people who are in similar roles at similar companies, maybe even non-competitive companies that are just peer, in your peer network, and being able to sort of create that sounding board cadence of, hey, how are you guys approaching this new compliance rule? Or how did you guys interpret what the SEC said about crypto, or right now it's big, like with AI, the usage of AI and how the regulators are looking at that. I think that's some of the ways to get really early on ahead of it, is to really leverage your peer network and sort of take that synthesis or that summary of what may be out there.
I love that insight. That's fantastic. Now, um, again, I think the regulations will change, the time frames will change, and to your point that there is that sort of incredible value that's drawn up from your peer network and being involved there. And what I'll sort of say within the technology world, I'm wondering what you think the role of technology would be in embracing those new regulations, embracing those new sort of set of
Yeah,
requirements.
I think technology functions two ways there. The first one being technology makes it, or at least enables you to be compliant, right? So a lot of ways, you couldn't do what the regulators are asking you to do without leveraging a technology to be compliant. InvestorCOM is a good example of how do you be able to evaluate all available options to make sure you're making the best recommendation for a prospective client or a current client. So that's one. So technology actually enables you to do it. Second one is technology enables you to do it, but do it effectively and efficiently and in a cost-effective way. And I think that's, instead of hiring, I know years and years ago, I was at a networking happy hour, and I was talking to a gentleman who worked at a bank, and he said, this was about May in the year. And he said, we've hired 47 new people this year, and 46 of them have been in compliance. And I said, well, that doesn't seem like the best business strategy. There's definitely some technology there that probably could have mitigated having to hire all his new people in the compliance side. And I think, that's where you can find ways to do it efficient and faster. And tools like Docupace and InvestorCOM come in and can help that.
100% agree, man. You said it so well, and I find there's a little bit of everybody's read the Crossing the Chasm book, and being able to kind of embrace new technology, embrace new regulations. The pace of adoption is always a question. And I find, there's always early adopters of technology, but gradually through time. And I think you're seeing it now, when people see newer and newer finds, and the propensity to sort of embrace that change goes up. And as a result of it, you end up saving the organization money, not only through scalable technology, but be able to kind of empower the advisors as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the trust equation that comes in. So a firm could look at it a couple of ways and say, look, if we get fined $100,000, it's really not going to, blow up our budget. We have the money. We'll take the risk and see if the SEC comes and pings us. What I would say is spend the $90,000 on a technology that you don't have your name in the headline, that you don't have a blemish on your record, and you don't have to face that whole scenario. And I think it's sort of, sometimes you end up double paying if you wait to adopt a technology. When it comes to regulatory field, if you delay paying to wait for, let's just see if they tell us to do it first. When really, if you were just more proactive, you actually become, it could be more positive, not only in the trust area, but also financially for the firm.
I love the trust factor in that equation, because, so much of this is, even the regulations to begin with are around sort of improving that dynamic between the advisor and their clients, or the firm and the client, right? So if technology is a lever to get you there, then man, that trust is worth every single damn penny. One of the things, I mean, we started by sort of learning about your background, Ryan, and the fact that you were sort of client facing on the advisory side, to wearing a chief marketing officer hat at a technology organization. And then we talked a little bit about regulations and the influx of them, as well as the foundational element of trust. I'm curious, if Mr. Ryan George had a transformative wand, what would you do? What would you do to improve the dynamics of our industry?
One thing I think would be interesting is if we all banded together, both the fintech side, the product provider side, even the advice provider side, and try to move the needle in terms of how many more people could get advice in America. We've still got really low penetration in terms of how many people are accessing professional advice and using that guidance from an early stage when they're newly married or have a newly parent. I think there's work can be done. We all win by growing the pie, making the business bigger, making the industry bigger. And I feel like there's work to be done for creating barriers of lowering the barrier to entry to where people can work with an advisor and have less assets, or getting more access to products, to technology without having to go through a high hurdle. So I think I think there's been big progress last decade, but I hope to see the next decade we even will have more progress to where people earlier in life are feeling the benefit of getting financial, professional advice, and it's putting them on the right path. Because therefore, I think in the long term, that has a really upshot for positivity and optimism in America, because this sound footing can then allow them to do things, allow them to be more in control of their career and choose what they want to do, or allow them to be, have more control over their marriage or their life. And I think that's something that could be if I had a magic wand, that's the one I would wave.
Wow, love it, Ryan. That's one of the best comments I've heard so far. Having hosted a number of people on this, sort of the being able to collectively sort of advance the industry through sort of seeing the bigger picture and that kind of incremental benefit of growing the pie per se together. Love it. That's a fantastic comment. Mr. Ryan George, always a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you again for making time, and hopefully we'll have you back in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
If you enjoyed listening to today's session, please like this video and subscribe to InvestorCOM's YouTube channel and other podcast channels for more Wealth Compliance Leader series.